But it is the latter part of May, and right now is a transition time in Iceland in so many ways. Really, the colors are coming in now, the summer colors. Schools are out, and the kids will soon be seen about town, cleaning up and clearing and pruning the trees and cutting the grass. They're employed, the youngsters, by the municipalities around Iceland. Those who want to have work can do so, and they're paid for this, of course. It's not a volunteer work. Keeps them off the street and gives them a little money in their pocket, like we like to say, and gives them a good training. They do have, they can earn money, in other words, over the summer. This is a good program, I think. We had a bit of trouble with the European Union for a while. They were trying to label this as child labor, but we somehow got around that with them. Of course, we don't belong to the European Union, but we have um, adopted about 75% of their legislation. So we pretty much have to follow the rules of the European Union. But it is getting brighter in Iceland, and there's almost no night anymore. We are entering this time when Iceland is truly the land of the midnight sun, and travelers that come from countries where they're used to having darkness in the night get a bit confused, a bit, well, it doesn't hamper their activity. It is, as a matter of fact, it is better, if anything. And they are making available now here in Iceland these midnight tours. People will actually travel through the night and see Iceland at night rather than in the daytime. Not that they have to worry about the crowd. We haven't had much crowd since COVID started, and but it is picking up actually a little bit. And by the 1st of June, we are expecting some 17 different airlines flying over here with people from Europe and from the US. So the summer is promising, let's say that. But most of all, we finally got some rain, and this has made all the difference for the vegetation and the flowers and the grass. It is finally turning green in Iceland. Tonight, I'm going to have this, there's a bit of a magazine going on here now. I've got 3 different sessions to the tour tonight. And we start off, I've been busy filming part of the week, and I want to share some of the footage I took around town. But we are going to end up in Árbæjarsátt. I didn't even have time to put the voice to the video, so I'm going to just be a voiceover here. So I'm going to start this screen sharing and see if we can get this show going. Voila. Share. There we go. Okay, I hope that this is going to work. We are starting off in the Botanical Gardens in Reykjavik. We just came by there last Wednesday, and things looked much different than it does now. Actually, it is getting green. So let's see what we see. Water. Iceland probably has more water than any other country in the world. At least we have more waterfalls than any other country if you take into account the size of the land. And there are so many waterfalls, probably around 2,000 of them. And it is strange that in a country where water is everything, we were basically in need of it so much this spring. and the beginning of summer. But now, as you can see, almost over a night, things have happened. It has been raining today, rained last night, and the grass is getting greener, and the flowers are coming out, and it feels a little bit more like summer than it did last week. And the botanical gardens are sort of receiving the bounty of this. Uh, of course, most of the flowers are not out yet, but it is the start. I really love this place, the Botanical Gardens of Reykjavik. They're fantastic. You can see there that we are not quite there yet, but we will be. Of course, the geese are amazing. They really like the new grown grass, and they are coming for it in droves. And I couldn't help but filming some of them. Geese and ducks on the ponds there, but they're enjoying the good weather that we had. Well, we've been having very good weather, but today was very nice and hardly any wind, and the the garden felt alive. Of course, the geese and the ducks are here all year around now. Iceland, like the rest of the world, is getting warmer and suitable for life to stay here. These birds don't have to leave like they used to. My namesakes, the swans, they absolutely refuse to leave. They any of them, hardly any of them actually go over to Europe, over to England, like they used to, where they become the property of the Queen. I like to say that, but yeah. They are definitely getting ready for something. And the botanical gardens, even though they are open all year around, they don't have the display that they probably would like all year around. In the winter time, everything sort of, the duck is trying to say something there. But the greenhouse that they have and the cafe inside the greenhouse is a marvelous place to visit in the winter time as well. You're completely oblivious of winter outside. There could be a blizzard outside and you're still having a good time inside the greenhouse. From the garden, from the botanical garden, I went to a gem in Reykjavik. This is in Reykjavik. It doesn't look like Reykjavik, does it? But it is. For in Reykjavik, we have this wonderful museum called Hábær. Many of the houses that the older houses of Reykjavik have been removed from downtown, wherever they were, and into this area, just on the edge of Reykjavik, where the olden times is preserved. Right there inside this older house is from the 1950s. Actually, we see the underwear hanging there. This particular one is called the Föðurland, the fatherland. It's a woolen long johns, and all Icelanders would wear them in the past. And as a matter of fact, they were greatly sought after by the sailors and fishermen that came to catch fish around Iceland in the Middle Ages. 15, 20,000 men from France and England and Holland would frequent these waters, and they wouldn't stay alive if they didn't have access to the Icelandic wool, the fatherland of the Icelanders, the long johns. This is what kept them alive in the cold weather of the North Atlantic Ocean. People lived a bit differently, even though this house and the interior is supposed to be a sort of a country house from the 1950s. You can see that life has changed tremendously in such a short time. This is basically like what you would find in Europe in the 19th century, what the houses were here in the 20th century, 100 years later. And the houses were made out of wood, Finally, we got some wooden houses. Didn't have to dwell in those earth holes that the Icelanders lived in for so long, for 600-700 years. We basically lived in mud holes in the ground. We didn't have any wood to build any houses, but these houses were generally imported. Some of them fabricated abroad and then brought and put together here. And for Iceland didn't have any wood. The only wood really source that we have was driftwood. And if you had access to driftwood, you were a rich man. It shows so clearly there how these people used to live. Well, not that long ago. I remember myself some of these things. Coffee pots that were the most important thing in the house, to have coffee and the coffee pot go. And Icelanders are great coffee drinkers. They're taking to tea now more, but they like their coffee. And this is the time when houses were heated up with coal and wood. If they had wood to burn, they didn't have much of that, but oil later on. And family, of course, was important. These houses, even though they were not big, big families used to live in them, and they would make do. Many of these furnitures that we see in those pictures were actually imported from Denmark, and that shows that the people were well-to-do that lived in those this house in particular. They have wallpapers, and it looks like a fine house, but nevertheless from the 20th century, not 19th century, like you would think from just looking at this if you're from Europe or from the US. The ever-present sewing machine, the Singer sewing machine. Many households had two of those because all the clothes were home sewn. I tell you, my first clothes were sewn by my grandmother, and I know I'm old, but not that old. There were no bought clothes. The only thing that was made not in the farm where I lived were the shoes that I wore. They were bought. Everything else was made in the home. All the food was homemade as well. This is a typical kitchen there, and the laundry, all pressed at home and homemade as well. Wool, and of course we didn't have cotton here, no native cotton. Actually, there is a cotton grass in Iceland, but this the native cotton grass in Iceland, but the cotton of it is too weak to be woven into linen or anything like that. It was used for wicks at times, for oil lamps, but nothing else, basically. We call it fiba. You will see it on the side of the road when you drive around Iceland, this white flower cotton grass, the common cotton grass. Books were important. They were in every home. Once, at least in the 20th century, they were precious commodity to have in the past. But and those that we did have, we tried to preserve as long as we could. There were actually times where Icelanders were reported having eaten their books. Talking about devouring literature, they had the sagas that were written on calfskin, and in times of famine and hunger, they would be tempted to eat actually their books. But not anymore. And pictures of families, and when pictures became available, would adorn the walls of Icelandic homes, and of national heroes like Jón Sigurðsson. We see that picture there on the wall of Jón Sigurðsson. I've shown you the statue of Jón Sigurðsson many times. He's in front of the House of Parliament. The fellow that penned the petitions of the Icelanders when they were trying to gain independence. And then they also, in this museum, this is actually a museum. It's run by the Museum of Iceland, the Reykjavik Museum rather. It is a part of Reykjavik, not the National Museum. And they have a exhibit about consumption, because we did enter that era of consumerism, and it shows some of the things that I remember actually from my childhood and youth. Some of these are not available, at least not the same packaging as it did have. But of course, the packaging has changed, but the stuff is the same, I think. And so this exhibit is marvelous. It has samples of all the different stuff that we used to buy, or I was sent out into the store to buy the sugar and the coffee and the salt, and then it got sweeter actually as time went on. In the 60s, I remember there was a lot more sweets about, sugary things, and I think this exhibit actually reflects that. Some toys from the past. This actually, again, the toys look like they are from the 19th century. They're not. Macintosh. Oh my God, Macintosh. This was the candy that everybody wanted to have for Christmas. It wasn't available regularly in stores here in Iceland until quite late. But this Macintosh candy was imported and brought to the land by fishermen and sailors that would take their fish over to England mostly and sell it there and bring for Christmas all kinds of things that weren't available in Iceland. And Macintosh was one of them. These huge cans of Macintosh candy. Butter used to come in big tin cans like this ones. No beer in Iceland, of course, and well, there was prohibition in the beginning of the 20th century from the 1930s for a few years, and no alcohol available. And when they gave up on the prohibition, they didn't allow beer to be sold until 1989. So Icelanders drank soda, a lot of soda, and mixed it into strong drinks like vodka and brennivín, uh, the Icelandic strong liquor. So we have some of that on the exhibit. It's this red packaging there. This is something that we used to add to the coffee. It's like chicory, but it's not really. It's the root of the coffee plant that make the coffee last longer, the grain, and make it incredibly strong. Icelanders love it. Icelandic product there, I can see. Finally, Iceland is starting to package their own coffee and sugar and salt. So I thought this was a sort of would give you an idea how Iceland has lived and how quickly things have changed in Iceland's television set. Iceland didn't have television on Icelandic television until the 70s, and prior to that, the only television that they saw were the broadcast of the NATO base, and that was limited, only reached to Keflavik and the surrounding area, to the NATO base in Keflavik, where the international airport is. But here we go. We're seeing some foreign products, products that you may even recognize today on the market in Iceland. So that was the visit to Hábær Museum. I think it is a fantastic place to go, and you can easily spend 4 or 5 hours there, because the houses, there are so many houses, and they are from different era, and they've got they've done a brilliant job of it. I really recommend it. But there is another video here that I wanted to share with you. I popped up. I couldn't help myself. I popped up to the volcano once more, and I'm probably going again. But this time, I think I got the better pictures than ever before. And just 5 minutes of a little bit of Geldinganes. And here we go. Geldingadalir. This is on the 16th, as you can see. Geldingadale, of course, is changing. Right after I was there, it basically burst one of the sides of the crater away, blew it away. So it looks like a gash with two sides on it now. And it keeps going and going. As a matter of fact, more stuff is coming out of it now than ever before. Getting up to Geldingadalur is actually easier now than ever before. There's almost a road up there now. They have made the path passable for four-wheel drive vehicles, although they don't allow it. But this is done for safety, to get the ambulances and cars up there if necessary. It's a beautiful surrounding, if you can see that. It's just so unique to be able to go to a country, get to a volcano and sit like literally in a stadium and watch the whole thing unfold before you, in front of you. Right now, yesterday actually, they started charging people for parking in the parking lot. It's like 1,000 Icelandic kronur for the day. That's not very much. 1,000 Icelandic kronur is like $6-7 US for the whole day of parking. But they are doing this in order to be able to facilitate the improvements, access to the volcano that they need to do. Since it keeps going, and there is no end in sight. I think, that I am positively going up there again. There's no question. It just is so luring. I can't imagine any other place in the world where you can actually walk up to the lava. You're right there, and it is flowing towards you. It's going slowly, I know. You can outrun it if you have to, but still, so close to it. This lava is 1,400 degrees hot. Yeah, it's not just warm where it comes out. It is underneath what looks like a solidified lava, where it is actually molten as well, and it bursts through in a molten form. You can see, and sets the earth on fire. So it goes off every 5 minutes. Totally worth the trip to Iceland, is what I would say. You see nothing else. So, yeah. But there's something else that I got prepared for you. Let me see. Okay, jump started. But in town, there are so many sort of places that can easily escape you if you don't know somebody who knows, basically. And since 2013, the law allowed these mini breweries to be established around the land, and they have been popping up like mushrooms, basically everywhere. Some of them have been very successful, and we found probably the most successful one. It makes Olafsson gin, and we were received by two lovely girls there, ladies actually, Marta and Mala, who received us when we came for a visit, and then the owner and the fellow that had this vision for a worldly recognized Icelandic gin came along, and he spent some time with us and told us a lot about it, and showed us how he did it and what is so special about this Olafsson gin. So I want to play that for you here. I hope that I know the voices are a little bit low in the beginning, but when Arnar comes on, it's very clear. So let's play that. Yeah, I can hardly hear them myself. And then in there we will have like a product development room for our next products. We are currently and R&D. So that's really exciting. We'll be very focused on the work for the bottom and R&D will be the summer. And then in there we just have rocks. It's almost ready as well. And here's the bathroom. We are also rendering that. Almost ready. So we have different net. So yeah. Have you heard the story about elevators or an ocean? Yes, of course. So this is the idea behind the gym, like the concept behind the gym. I guess Olafsson book called Dagbókin or travel book, which he and then Olafsson wrote in 18th century. This is a book actually from 1805, which we were so lucky to get.
Yeah, they traveled around Iceland and wrote about everything they saw, the people, the nature, the animals, the plants, everything. And they wrote this book for the Danish king, because we were under the Danish crown at that time, and made this book. Published it first in Danish, and then later on in English, and later on in Icelandic. So that's like the inspiration behind the bottle and the gin. Bottle here. You can see it. So this is like how we imagine he looked, but there's no picture of him because it's so long time ago. And yeah, so it's inspired by the nature. Here we have him exploring waterfalls, fogs, and what's that? Loch Ness monster. The Loch Ness. Yeah, that's a nice story. Volcano. Yeah, as you can see. This was designed by a designer, French designer in the States. The branding agency is called Minister Factor. So we are working very closely with them. We are really happy with the look. We have received actually a number of awards for both the design and packaging and also the gin itself. So that's amazing. The last one we got was double gold award. Yeah, double gold award. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're the most awarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we launched it, yeah, almost exactly 1 year ago here in Iceland, right before COVID. So that was interesting.
How technical, how virtual too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can do something. Well, I mean, talking about technical, we know what this is? Yeah.
It's like kind of a fruit.
This is actually a cucumber.
It's a cucumber, it's not a fruit.
The lemon.
So it's a crossbreed, or what?
I believe it's a cucumber, but it's not a crossbreed, but it's a cucumber with a hint of citrusy. And we play around with it because it looks great like that. That's the main reason for us using it. So it's all about the looks. This is the proper way to make a gin and tonic. Ice first, then gin, then tonic. We are using Antimans Svanur tonic. It's a very light tonic. Goes very well with Olafsson because Olafsson is not very heavy, it's very light and citrusy. So we want the tonic also to be light and citrusy. And the number one thing when pouring a tonic is to pour it very quickly. Why is that? The bubbles in the tonic, they make everything mix together quickly. So you should never stir the tonic, always just pour it like that. Well, I mean, this is not my recipe. It's actually the butler of the Queen's mother of this UK. So, if somebody knows how to drink a gin and tonic, it must be the Queen's mother. So, cheers, guys. Unfortunately, we are doing office work, so unless we do gin and tonic.
Yeah, I can drink that for a couple of months. Definitely, without stopping.
Well, I mean, it's, our aim with the flavor of coffee is to make a gin that was, well, it's kind of hokey to say it out loud, but it's almost like a brisk, fresh spring evening. So it's light, and the overtone there in the end, Icelandic herbs that give it a little bit of almost like an earthy tone, but it's still incredibly fresh. Fresh air that gets blown in your face constantly while in Iceland. So it's kind of an easy drinking, fresh, light. And number one thing for me personally, very balanced. You don't have any notes out there. So it's just like you enjoy it and you just think, that's really refreshing. Shouldn't be, for us, it was not the question about having a big overtone like, I don't know, marshmallows or whatever, which is obviously very popular. People are always trying to stand out. Just have it all incredibly balanced. And that means that we can drink more of it, and the more you drink, the more you drink. It's kind of a perfect deal, though. I mean, it's I just think we're coming over there. I mean, this is not officially open. There's still, waiting for a few, like everywhere else, licensing and stuff like that is very complicated, and we cannot charge you for drinks, and we give you drinks. So that is completely, legal. So, the plan obviously is to have small gin seminars, cocktail classes, gin introduction, Olafsson introductions in here. This is our distillery not open for the public, not until we build our new distillery. So at the time being, the thinking was to offer small groups to come over, talk to us a little bit, and enjoy a couple of gin and tonics and learn a little bit about what we're doing.
This is perfect because we plan on offering a small group tours once tourism opens up.
Yeah.
So moving from virtual to live tours as well.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely perfect for us. We're just planning on the details, because obviously we're not going to have an open door. There's going to be slots, and never more than 6 to 10 people or something like that. People take them, we can take 15, but we kind of are looking for the intimacy of talking to people and looking into their eyes pretty much. So I mean that's kind of our goal with the whole brand is having a little, personal. So you come to me or them personally. It's not, I'm talking to a big group of people. It's a little bit more, intimate. It's kind of the way we work. Okay.
So can you tell me about the recipe?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this gin, we sought out to make a gin, and we wanted to make a gin that was compatible in the global market in regards to taste. Actually, the look of the bottle also, and the price point of it. So we actually, in Iceland, the distillery, we say like there's not a big culture of distilling spirits. Mostly it's been farmers doing what's called landi. It's moonshine in the US. So there's not a lot of expertise in how to make gin or any other alcohol in Iceland. So we sought after a man that's called the legend. We sent him a bunch of Icelandic botanicals, went back and forth with him, and obviously went through a few visits until the final recipe was made. This is what you're drinking here. I thought it would take maybe a couple of weeks, but it sure did not take a couple of weeks. Months and months and months and months. But the final recipe here, obviously not all the botanicals in it are Icelandic because I mean there are cinnamon and there are citrus and stuff like that don't grow in Iceland. Outside of the fact that we've obviously been thinking about how about just making a really big, greenhouse and just making it all in-house. But obviously, if you are lucky enough to sell a lot of bottles, you need a lot of botanicals. So if you need, I don't know, 500 pounds of junipers, the actual juniper, crop will be by far gone, long before that. But the homes in the gins, they are Icelandic. And the Icelandic herbs that we are using to make the homes are on the back label, so they're not a secret. The mountain moss, the Arctic thyme, and the birch leaves. And what makes Icelandic botanicals interesting compared to the ones abroad, and also a little bit hard to work with, is the intensity of the flavor. Because the Icelandic summer night is incredibly short. So summer night, Icelandic summer is incredibly short. So these botanicals, they have to get all their, flavor, all their growth spurt over a really, really short time. That means that they're packed with flavor. So an Icelandic thyme is much, much, much more pungent than the normal thyme. So when we have blóðberg, which is the name in Iceland for thyme, land and blóðberg, you put maybe 1/3 of what we use normally, of the normal. But that makes it also very easy for us to make the tones stand out a bit. And if you try out high, well, I don't know how good your palate is, obviously, but if you get up with this palate, it's just very smart. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, let's use these ones instead. So, well, obviously, when you know it, you should taste a little bit the earth tones of the mountain moss, the bitterness of the thyme, and the birch gives it also just so it's a very spectacular and a taste that you can have on, because obviously you haven't eaten birch leaves. Yeah. So if you can just swirl it in a glass, take a little sip. It's the overtones are what gives it the earthy, forget fresh tone. But then obviously comes a hint of citrus, which is always not from Iceland. So the citrus always comes last. But we kind of say the foundation and the building blocks are the normal gin, passionate in the end is the Icelandic touch. And obviously the Icelandic water. It's in, 60% of this is water, Icelandic water. We talked to experts all around the world. They said the water doesn't matter what kind of water you use. And we said that's wrong. But the reason why the experts say so is because normally water is aromatic, so it's filtered. And they thought that we were going to filter the Icelandic water. So the Icelandic water is lava. It's not filtered with any chemicals or anything like that. So it's not neutral. So it gives a high pH level. So it gives a very soft mouthfeel. And if you would taste it with normal water that has been neutralized, you would have a very flat palate. The Icelandic water gives it a lightness and a very soft touch. And obviously it's kind of the thing that ties it all together. To get it to tie together is, as I said before, it's not an easy test. It takes lots and lots and lots and lots of tries and errors. But no, I think, as it stands at the moment, we've been lucky enough to have gold and double gold and platinum awards all around the world. Good days. Also actually also the look of the bottom. So, it seems to be that we've been doing some progress like this. And we are, the second or third highest in Iceland, which kind of sets in motion the first goal that we had. Because if you cannot be successful in your home country, it's very hard for you to be successful anywhere else. So the foundation of the company was built here in Iceland, and our first goal was to make Icelanders start drinking Icelandic alcohol. Because generally, Icelanders, they tend to drift towards, bottle of Tanqueray, that's the easiest, or bottle of lemonade, that's the easiest. And to get them to go to the Vínbúðin, which is the Icelandic monopoly for alcohol, and take a bottle of Olafsson, and that took a lot of hard work, and months of, marketing, which is hard to say because it's illegal to advertise alcohol in Iceland. So you have to find ways to make people, know about the alcohol itself. So, but yeah, as I said, this is, I believe, the biggest selling Icelandic, especially premium alcohol of all time. So we are incredibly, happy with how Icelanders have taken the product. Because normally in Iceland, when you make an alcohol, you know that the duty-free will take care of 90% of the sales. But literally the same month that we launched, the duty-free was pretty much closed because of COVID. So we had to find a way to, sell. And that was through the Vínbúðin, and it's been going absolutely fantastic. So obviously now the duty-free is open again. It's going to be interesting, but the next step for us now at the moment is to open up markets abroad. And we haven't been working very hard at it while COVID was going on full force, because you cannot send a pallet of gin to the US, for example, and just tell them, hey, here's the great gin. You have to go there, you have to follow through, you have to talk to people, you have to sell it yourself. And we just started doing that. I mean, the first container of gin is going to the US next month. And with it starts our, big global sales, although we've been selling in Switzerland for the last 5-6 months. And we are opening up new markets.
Well, oops. Here we go. Now this guy knows his stuff. And if you think that this was a bit too much, he went on for quite a long time after this. He had a lot more to say. Well, he's very proud of his gin, obviously, Olafsson, and he says that, well, this is one more reason why there is a reason to come to Iceland is for the gin. I don't know about that, but he's definitely looking to export it. And yeah, I wish him all the success. That's all I got prepared for you tonight. Definitely have something on the go for next Wednesday, but and more opportunity to go out and introduce you to the small things that maybe you don't read about in all the travel brochures. And I know that Adam is collecting amazing stuff with his drone. I look forward to have a look at that and maybe tell you a little bit about what he has been filming. But as for tonight, this afternoon, this evening, whatever time it is where you are located, that's it for me. And so keep well and stay healthy, and see you next time. Cheers.